About running late traffic. It was out of control, but we're going to talk a little Sacramento real estate market. We have a special guest, Dave Carlson. He is a commercial real estate broker. So if you're thinking about doing some commercial real estate, he's the guy to talk to. Let's get going right now. All right, we're going to do a quick intro. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just jump right into it. Okay, so Dave, how are you doing?
I'm great, Mark. I'm so excited to be on the show.
Very, very cool, man. All right, so tell us a little bit about you specifically.
Yeah, my name's Dave Carlson. I grew up in Folsom. One of my really good friends and I worked for a larger commercial real estate firm. We went out on our own about 3 years ago. So I am a commercial real estate broker here in the greater Sacramento area. But, we do work out of state, but a lot of work we do is with like local and regional business owners. We can talk about residential versus commercial or answer any questions. But once again, really excited to be on the show.
Very cool, man. Okay, and as everyone knows, hopefully, my name is Mark McDonough. I'm your real estate agent here in Sacramento, realtor. And like I said, we do these lives every single Wednesday at 5:30. So if you guys have any questions about the Sacramento real estate market, Dave himself, he's lived in Folsom. He just moved over to Orangevale. So he's he knows a lot about this area as well, not just in commercial. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask it. So currently right now in the residential space, what you're noticing in the Sacramento area is that inventory is super low, super low. Can't get any lower than it is. And so for the most part, that's kind of what we're suffering from. The weather doesn't help. It's been raining, which we love the rain. Don't get me wrong. I mean, California definitely needs more rain. But as far as real estate in general, it's just one of those things that's a little bit daunting. Bad weather. Or good weather, well, rain, let's just call it what it is. Rain, you got low inventory, you got all the holidays coming up, so people aren't really putting their houses on the market. So low inventory is our biggest problem right now, and it's freaking people out because interest rates are coming up right behind them, and so people are kind of freaking out saying, oh, I got to get myself something. So it's one of those things that can definitely be a pain. So let's talk a little bit, Dave, about commercial real estate in Sacramento. Let's say that someone comes out here, they moved out to Sacramento and they're saying to themselves, you know what, I have a business in the Bay Area. I want to start a business here. As far as the timing goes, as far as the opportunities for commercial real estate in Sacramento, how do you see it right now?
Yeah, we are getting one of two phone calls. One is someone from the Bay Area saying, hey, I'm moving out to Granite Bay. I'm moving out to Elk Grove. And I am going to move my business out there, so they're going to need new space. So we're getting a lot of those phone calls of people that their homes are moving, and then that's kind of dictating where their offices and where their businesses go. Some of them, if they're from the Bay Area, they're keeping, maybe a warehouse in the Bay Area, but they're expanding out to Sacramento to go with like where they're moving their home. So we're getting a lot of those phone calls. We're also getting a decent amount of people saying that, for whatever reason, they're moving out of state. So you have some people that are moving into Sacramento, and you have some, longtime Sacramento folks are moving out of state. So the result is, some opportunity. I'd say that our inventory is very low, but not nearly as low as it is on the residential side. Part of that is because there's all kinds of people looking for homes. Really only business owners are going to be looking to buy a commercial building like that. And so there's not nearly as much demand as there is on the residential side. With that said, interest rates are still low for commercial, and it's getting harder and harder to find the right building to buy. Lease, it depends what you're looking for, whether it's office space or warehouse space. We can get into all that, but certain building types are harder to find space even to lease right now. So
Okay.
I would say if you're coming out from the Bay Area to Sacramento, first I would say welcome to Sacramento. It's the best. We're excited you're here. The second thing I would say is get started on your search early, because it is not going to be fast, and it's probably not going to be as straightforward as you think it will be. You don't want to be rushed. You want to have plenty of time. And so just make sure that if you're coming out here and you want to move your business, start looking as soon as you possibly can, because the right opportunity might not present itself for a month or two. And then, these things always take longer than you expect.
Okay, so commercial as far as it, because I'm not really, I know commercial, but I don't know commercial real estate. It's a whole different thing too. And if you're working with a residential realtor and they're telling you, commercial stuff and everything too, it's just like it's different. It's a different specialty. It's like there's ins and outs. Always tell people when they're asking me about commercial stuff, I'm like I can advise them, but usually my phone call is to Dave to just say, hey, look, I got someone who's looking at commercial because it's always good to give. You want to make sure that if you're giving service to someone that you're being authentic about what your forte is, what you're good at, and all this kind of stuff. And so, that's kind of one of the things you need to realize as well, that like even though you might be you might be your trusted local residential realtor might be awesome, at the same time, he's got to kind of be legit with you as far as like his commercial experience. And, it's definitely a different thing. So, okay, for commercial, let's say that someone is like, how are you seeing right now people making money in commercial real estate?
That's a great question. And to piggyback off what you just said, I think a lot of people don't know that you have the same license that I have, and I have the same license that Matt Gouget has, even though we do entirely different things, entirely different, specialties. So just as you said, with commercial, you'll probably refer that to somebody. I should not represent anyone in buying or selling a home. That is definitely not something I do, and it's not something that I should be taking on clients for. So um, as far as where the opportunities are in commercial real estate, a quick kind of rundown. When the pandemic hit, I had a lot of friends and family kind of coming to me, just kind of being like, "Ooh, like how are you doing? How are things going?" Because everyone immediately thinks of those, vacant retail spaces and everyone going remote and never going back to the office. And there was just kind of a general feel of like, "Oh man, you do commercial real estate? That's got to be rough." And the reality is, for a lot of 2020, there wasn't a lot of people really moving around. A lot of people were kind of staying put and just sort of waiting for the storm to pass to figure out what they do. As I'm sure everyone's read in the headlines, there's a lot of businesses that have remote employees. Some of them have stayed full remote. A lot of them are sending people back to the office. So the office space impact of the pandemic in Sacramento is actually not as bad as most people expected. I think a lot of the really large blocks where you had the huge companies where they're telling half of their workforce that they can be remote forever, like those ones are obviously going to constrict a little bit. Some of those big office users did get smaller, or they gave up space, or they consolidated space. But what we found is that a lot of people that need small office space, 1,000 to 3,000 square feet, a lot of times after working at home with their dog and their family and all the distractions, they realize that they need office space. And so a lot of them ended up coming back to, a lot of them, really didn't even stay out of the office very long and came back quickly because they realized they can't work from home. It's just really not an option for them. So I work with a lot of local and regional businesses, and a lot of them realized quickly that they still need office space. Some of them might need maybe half of what they needed, but they still need it. So overall, I think a lot of people, they're calling me and they're saying, "Hey, Dave, where are the amazing deals?" I'm sure because of the pandemic, like every office building is vacant. And the reality is, a lot of people have come back to the office. Um, and it's really more of the big blocks that are sort of available. So on the flip side of that, is the industrial market is on fire. So warehouse, any kind of storing, logistics. When everyone stopped going to the grocery store, buying things at brick and mortar retail, they started buying them online. So all of those things, instead of going to the brick and mortar retail, are all going to warehouses and being distributed all around. So as you can imagine, warehouse space is an absolute premium right now. And it was strong going into the pandemic. And then the pandemic basically, turbocharged that entire trend. So warehouse space is very, very hard to come by. It's not that it isn't out there, but it's tough to find. And the price for warehouse space, if you're going to purchase, has been ticking up and up and up. So really the pandemic, it was a little kind of a dip for office space. It actually has improved the warehouse market. The warehouse is actually doing better because of it. And then retail obviously took a hit. Any kind of restaurant, public facing, like anyone who relied on people coming in physically to your location, they had a rough 2020. And as you can imagine, some of them recovered and some of them didn't. But
Yeah.
the I guess long answer to your question is, where are the opportunities? We can get more into this in a bit, but I personally think one of the best opportunities for commercial real estate investing is if you are a business owner. I think that a lot of business owners go their entire life renting office or warehouse space, paying rent to somebody else, and they don't realize that there are a lot of programs and there's a lot of tools they can use to buy their own building. So whenever people say, who's the best person to invest in commercial real estate, I always say business owners. And we can talk about it a little more if people are interested. But I think if you are a business owner and you plan to need your commercial space for another 5, 10, 15 years, you should be asking yourself, does it make more sense to purchase? There's all kinds of analysis we can do, but I think a lot of people are surprised by the numbers.
Okay. Well, we got a question. Is commercial property overpriced compared to the housing in Sacramento? It seems like there's a huge excess out of downtown and smaller restaurants / offices. McClellan, is it a good bang for the bucks?
So I guess the first half of that question is commercial real estate overpriced? For most property types, it is more expensive than it was in 2019. So it's actually getting higher. Kind of, it tends to sort of follow the residential market, but it's definitely a higher price than it was a couple of years ago, and way higher price than it was in like 2016. So from that sense, you can say, yeah, an office building that used to sell for $200 a square foot in Folsom is now selling for $350 a square foot, and you would look at that and say, wow, that's really overpriced. Except for when you take a step back and realize what these buildings cost new. I heard from another business owner that they are looking at building a new office building in Granite Bay, and it was going to cost them, I believe, over $500 a square foot to build everything new, build it out the way that they'd like to. And this is a 5,000 square foot standalone office building. So even though $350 a square foot for a commercial building sounds incredible to me, when you look at what it costs to replace, it's not quite as insane. And I mean, Mark, maybe you could talk a little bit about what replacement costs for homes versus what they're selling for, because in commercial we still haven't caught up to being above that replacement cost.
Yeah, in Sacramento, I mean, building costs, you're talking, I mean, here's the thing, like materials are in demand, super hard in demand, and contractors and people who can build homes are also, so everything's at a premium right now. All right, what do larger companies like Home Depot and Hilton rent property rather than buying smaller to what McDonald's does?
Really interesting question. Yeah, so I think some very, very large companies prefer to have the flexibility of leases as opposed to buying, and they don't want to have millions, billions of dollars of commercial real estate on their books. So, I mean, even companies like Amazon largely don't own the warehouses that they occupy. They basically let private sector developers build brand new warehouses for them. They sign, 10, 15-year leases. So basically, it's one of those things where they don't necessarily need to buy because someone will build them for them. And, I can't speak as a CFO of one of those companies, but I think they don't want all of that cash tied up in real estate on their books. So for a huge company, it doesn't always make sense to buy. But if you're, let's say you're a local contractor and you're going to have to lease space for the next 15 years, it can make a lot of sense for you to buy your own warehouse and basically pay rent to yourself, pay your loan down. There's all these different tax advantages. But, so a local business owner, it can make a lot of sense to buy. For a huge, huge company, when you have locations all over the United States, it doesn't always.
Okay. So let me ask you something. So like, let's say you're someone who wants to invest, you're looking at the house flippers and everything too, and you're looking at commercial space. Do you see a lot of people that are looking at these rundown kind of maybe warehouses or space, going in there, renovating it, and then just kind of like cashing in? Because I mean, what I've been noticing too is a lot of the people who are moving in from like the Bay Area or other places here are people who maybe are working for companies, but their end goal is to do something for themselves. I think truthfully nowadays, the entrepreneurial spirit is more alive than any place. Like I tell people in Sacramento, I move people in and I talk to them in about a year and they've pretty much quit their job and they've started their own company and they're super happy doing their thing. And I'm like, that's one of the things I love about Sacramento. It's like people are kind of doing their own thing. they're bringing ideas from other areas, right? Like if they move from Portland, something's big Portland, the tap houses here. I mean, they're just doing their own thing, which is just so cool. And that's one of the things I love about Sacramento, the entrepreneurial kind of drive. So as far as that goes, we know that there's a flood of people kind of coming in Sacramento, right? And if you didn't hear about it, well, now you know. But here's the thing though, like right now for like, let's say someone like you or someone like your clients, do you have clients saying, all right, look, I know that right now with the boom of people moving in here, places like Amazon, Apple, you got like in all these places move, all these big companies coming in. I know the commercial is going to be big. So let me find something that's maybe like completely like a cheap commercial spot that I can renovate, get in better shape, and just wait for that right person and start making some money off my investment. Do you see a lot of those people coming in?
Yeah, exactly. To answer the question of, where are the opportunities? I personally think it's in redevelopment. It's finding that kind of beat down old retail building. Maybe it has the right zoning so that you can convert it to more of like a warehouse use, or finding a really old, outdated office building and putting some money into it so that it's just going to look a lot nicer. Um, as we talked about, labor and materials and all that. I mean, if it's going to cost $500 a square foot to build a new office building, if you can buy one for $150 a square foot and really clean it up and position it in the right way, like you can see how there's money that can be made there. One thing that I love about commercial investing is that the value of the building is usually dictated by the rents that are paid by the tenant. So what's really cool about that is you can build serious value if you do things the right way, where a building that's vacant, it might be only worth $150 a square foot. But if you put, let's say $100 a square foot, and you really, really clean it up, and then you lease it to 2 or 3 companies on 5-year leases, you're going to take that net operating income and you're going to apply a market cap rate. And all of a sudden that building is going to be worth a lot more than it was before the tenant moved in. So with commercial, you have control to sort of dictate what the value of the building is by the lease that you sign. And if you want to be really patient and wait for the perfect tenant, you can do that. Of course, you can't buy a building that's in a terrible location. You can make it absolutely beautiful. If it's an absolute terrible location, you're going to have a hard time landing a quality tenant. So there's a little, give and take. But to answer your question, do I have clients that are looking for opportunities like that? Absolutely. And I think right now our market is a little bit picked over, to be perfectly honest. Like if you go and see a really nice warehouse that's in amazing shape, guess what? There's going to be 4 or 5 people that want it and are going to pay top dollar for it. But if you go and find something that's a little more beat down, maybe it's got a leaky roof, it's got some issues, that's where the upside and the opportunity is more of the value add play.
Very, very cool. Okay, so Dave's got an amazing YouTube channel, a lot of good commercial real estate advice on there. So check it out. I'm going to put the link in after we get off doing this. Like I said, traffic was brutal today. I was showing houses literally, not even that many houses, but getting from point A to point B to point C, which is so brutal with the rain. I mean, honestly, Dave, I was talking to Dave on the phone. I'm like, it's like people hadn't seen rain forever and they don't know what it is. They're getting out of their cars, looking up, going, I don't know what's going on here, but it was brutal. So I didn't have a lot of time to kind of like, to kind of get everything squared away here. But one of the things that I was talking to Dave about, which is really, really interesting, was the fact we always talk YouTube, but for the most part, I was talking to him also. He's actually someone who's native. He was born, he lived in Folsom, and then actually he made the move to Orangevale. So we're going to probably switch gears and talk a little bit about that kind of thing and just talk about Sacramento in general, about his thoughts on Sacramento, the development of Sacramento, everything. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to be fielding your commercial real estate question, or Dave is. I'm just going to look and nod and say, go for it. But at the same time, I want to kind of go into the details on Folsom, what he thinks of the growth in Folsom, what he thinks also of Orangevale. But before we do, smash that like button. Just smash it. Smash it. Smash that like button like the Hulk does. And that's from my buddy Aaron, who said, hey, do you have a Hulk like button? I'm like, yes, I do. All right, let's go back. Okay, so let me ask you something. So we were talking a little bit about that you were living in Folsom. How long were you living in Folsom for? And for what years were you living there?
Yeah, so I basically spent the first half of my life in Folsom Hills Elementary School, Folsom Middle School, Folsom High School. Went away to college, did some jobs, and then eventually moved back to the Sacramento area. So I'm a big fan of Folsom. My folks still live there. I got a lot of friends there. But yeah, I mean, I went from my first house was off Watt and Folsom Boulevard in College Glen. I think Matt Gouget is the mayor of that area, something like that. Um, then then we lived in East Sacramento for a little bit, which was an awesome experience. We moved out to Folsom, and we were in a house in Folsom I really liked a lot. We were only there for about after like a year and a half, and this house popped up in Orangevale that we just could not pass on, and so we kind of made the jump. It was really in December of last year when I really thought the real estate market couldn't get hotter. I was kicking myself thinking like, I'm in real estate. Like, how am I buying at the peak? But of course, we're always wrong. But yeah, I mean, is there anything particular you want to know about my thoughts?
Yeah.
Of,
Well,
versus
here's the thing,
Orangevale,
Dave.
or what kind of
But
talk?
here's the thing, Dave. Even though you bought the peak, you followed the number one rule of real estate. Do you know what it is? Happy wife, happy life. Everything else fail. Everything is two to like 10, but like that's the number one. So if you're good with that, you're good. Okay, so let me ask you something. One of the things I want to know straight up is like Folsom's development. You've seen it grow. You've seen it kind of just go crazy. Like, what do you think of it as far as being like one of the staple areas that people are looking to move into? Why is it so amazing? Like I babble about this all the time, but you're someone who really does commercial, right? So you're kind of like outside of like me being like a realtor telling you move into my area, work with me. You're someone who's actually lived there, seen it grow, seen it develop. And like, what did you love about Folsom? What are the things that like made Folsom like amazing for you?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, my business partner and I, would basically ride our bikes to the Taco Bell and Briggs Ranch. So like I've spent a lot of time there, and I love the community neighborhood aspect. Everyone is very friendly. It's very safe. It's super family friendly. I think that's important. But to me, looking at Folsom now, I think the best part is Sutter Street. I think that the character and just the fact that there's live music and good places to eat, like it's on the river, it's beautiful. Like, there are kind of sort of cookie cutter parts of Folsom that really could be any other suburb, but nobody else has Sutter Street. And so I think that's the core of what makes it so awesome is, great schools, safe neighborhoods, but really I think it's that Sutter Street that gives it its true character.
Okay. Like as an insider of Folsom, what are the spots that people should know about to go to eat? I know we're going to switch courses a little bit. What are the spots that like the normal person who goes to Folsom is going to go, okay, Dos Coyotes. Like what are those spots that like people have got to know about as far as that kind of stuff goes?
Yeah, well, staying on the Sutter Street kind of kick, I personally love Citizen Vine. They do kind of tapas style food. They have obviously a really good wine selection and a wine club. Citizen Vine is great. The new J Wilds is the barbecue that went into what used to be Chicago Fire on Sutter Street. So that's really good barbecue there on Sutter. I mean, there's there's a bunch of places that I like. Oh, I love Sam Horns. I love Fat Rabbit. I mean, there's a recurring theme. I love being on Sutter Street. Now it's all lit up for Christmas. It's just when I get there, I think to myself, like this is a truly unique place to be. And you can't always say that about every town. And that's one thing that I love. Um, you know, as you said, happy wife, happy life. My wife is from Orangevale, and so she had always wanted a little bit more property, and so it was one of those things where we went to tour a house, and she kind of dragged me out there, to be perfectly honest, and we toured through it, and she asked me, she's like, "What? How do you feel? What do you think?" And I just was like, I'm so mad to say that I absolutely love this house, and if we don't buy it, we're going to compare everything else to it. So even though we really weren't planning to move, this house presented itself that we were just so excited about, we couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And I think what's really awesome is that we are, even though we're in Orangevale, which I'm absolutely loving, our neighbors are great. There's lots of good food spots in Orangevale too. But I'm also 7 or 8 minutes from Sutter Street, which is obviously my favorite part of Folsom. So even though I'm in Orangevale, I'm really easy to Sutter Street, and I'm still really close friends and family.
Very, very cool. Okay, so we got another question coming up. Um, Dave, what do you think about Ben Mallah in Florida?
Ben Mallah in Florida. I'm. Can you spell that? I'm not sure.
Mallah. I've never heard of him.
I'm not familiar, unfortunately. I I really work with a lot of local and regional business owners, and I have helped clients buy things out of state. We're going to be doing that more and more, but I'm not familiar with that person. I'm sorry.
But here's what we can do if you want. Dave and I can like look at him, and we can do a little bit of our next YouTube live when he comes back on, and we can talk a little bit about Ben. Okay, so I got another one from Christian. My company refurbished a 260K square foot warehouse at McLennan, and it worked out really well, and it's cheaper than anything available in the greater Sacramento area. What do you think of that? Good spot to buy?
McClellan is growing like crazy. Yeah, there's they've brought a few massive warehouses out of the ground. They actually built them what we call speculatively, which is you build it before you know who the tenant is. And that hasn't happened in Sacramento for a while, frankly. That was kind of more like the pre last recession kind of boom times. What usually happens if you're going to bring something out of the ground, you're going to know who the tenant is. It's what we call like a build to suit. But yeah, the McClellan area is on fire. I think what it is there's more and more people moving their logistics hubs to Sacramento, and the industrial zoning is limited to a couple of regions. Your Rancho Cordova, West Sacramento, kind of Northgate, Natomas, McClellan area. But like if someone wanted to put a warehouse in the middle of Folsom, guess what? You can't. There's no land that's zoned for that. So, areas like McClellan that historically have been maybe a little tougher and not necessarily a destination for some business owners are really getting cleaned up, and that's where a lot of warehouse users are going. So to their point, I mean, I think that's a great opportunity.
Well, let me ask you something. Okay, let's go. Let's stick on this for just a second. Okay, so what are the hot areas? If it's me and I'm thinking I want to do what Christian just said. What are the areas in Sacramento you'd point me towards?
For if you're looking for something that has value add upside,
yeah,
I would steer away from your kind of glamorous markets like your Folsom, El Dorado Hills, Roseville. Those sort of areas are already really nice, and so the sort of buildings that are run down and have the upside that some investors like are not going to be in those areas. Every once in a while, something will hit the market, but people will dive on it because they know what we know, which is, if you get a cheap building in Folsom, you can add some value to it very, very quickly. So as far as regions that I think have a little more upside for an investor, I would say, Rancho Cordova, McClellan area, Carmichael, Natomas. Where I live in Orangevale, there's definitely some buildings that need some love, and I'm going to be working, really hard to try and find some new folks to come in and kind of clean up, some of those buildings. But yeah, I mean, anytime you're driving around and you're seeing a building that looks a little beat down, or if it looks like it's vacant and it has been vacant for a long time, that should be, alarms should be going off that maybe there's an opportunity there. So, yeah, I mean, I think all of those areas, and to be clear, a lot of people like to have office space in Folsom and in Roseville and El Dorado Hills because they're very, very nice. So if you're a dentist and you've always had an office in Folsom, I'm not suggesting you go and buy a building in Carmichael. You might just have to pay a market price for an office building in Folsom. And over time, it can still be a great investment. I mean, buying in the nicer, I guess I shouldn't say nicer, but the areas like Roseville and Folsom and El Dorado Hills that, they might be a higher per square foot price, but they're also, safer as far as long-term values.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you something. One of the things that I saw this, and for me, I think this is a great opportunity as far as everything goes, because I do see development being, if I had to buy a commercial warehouse or something like that, my thought is West Sacramento. I mean, the proximity to downtown, like right there, you know what I mean? I don't know. What do you think of that? I mean, because for me, I always my dream, a dream is to have a commercial warehouse where I'm running a studio, YouTube stuff, all that kind of fun stuff. And
Heck
I'm
yeah.
like, West Sac, right? You're right there. You're super close to downtown. It's hip, you know what I mean? Way too hip for me. So I'd have to, ask some people before I moved in. But West Sacramento, I mean, I'm like, location wise, kind of, you're like in this kind of cool part of like Sacramento. Well, not really Sacramento, but cool area. What do you think of that? Is that a good area to look in?
First off, Mark, you are way cool enough to be in West Sacramento, so
Thanks, man.
don't let anyone block you out there. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of opportunity in West Sacramento. It's a very business friendly area as well, and it's already one of the main industrial hubs. So there's a decent amount of industrial product in West Sacramento, and even like you said, it's so close to downtown. It's kind of a natural progression for more and more people to start moving out there. Obviously the cooler restaurants, bars, all that sort of stuff is already popping up in West Sac. But the other thing I did want to say is just a quick props to Mark. You're talking about a YouTube studio. I mean, I think you absolutely could teach YouTube courses if you aren't already, just because you're such a generous person with your time. Like I said, I'm building my channel. I have a long way to go, but you were always so nice about giving me tips and pointers. And I just want to make it very, very clear that I'm very, very grateful for your help. I consider Mark my YouTube Yoda. He's kind of showing me the way. So thank you again for that.
Nah, no problem. And like, here's the thing for me, it's just, there's so much, it's so good to get people's content out there. Like your content, your message, your authenticity. I mean, putting it out there, you're already a pro with the commercial stuff, and then all the tips you're giving people too. It's good. I love seeing like good content, and I love encouraging also people who have a good voice and need to be out there. There's so much, crap out there on YouTube. There's so many people doing the Home Alone faces like, oh, it's the end of the world, housing market, all this stuff. It's like, come on, man. It's like there's enough negativity out there that I really love encouraging people like you who bring a positive voice to this kind of like this YouTube platform. In a world that right now has, because of everything in the year, done like the whole negative spin on it. Like I think that like positive people on YouTube, positive people on their platform makes me happy. So, I can't wait to see your stuff. So more and more and more of your stuff. All right, we got another question from Christian. Okay, look at Ben's channel. If you have a spot open, he has endless amount of information on commercial property. What is the cheapest method to get into commercial? I will check out Ben's channel, by the way, Christian. I'm just not reading. What is the cheapest method to get into commercial real estate around 500 and 600K? Mark. Not Mark, but Mark. Got it.
Absolutely, yeah. So the $500,000-$600,000, is that your cash or is that your total budget including your loan? I guess let's assume that's the total amount that you're looking for. What I talked about earlier is if you're a business owner, you have the ability to do what we call Sba loans, which allow you to put down as little as 10%. So what's really cool about that is you can buy $1 million property with $100,000 down. If you're a business owner and you're going to put your business into it, can get more in depth on that. If you don't have a business and you're more of a traditional investor, it's going to be more like 30 or 40% down to buy a property. And as you can imagine, your cash just doesn't go quite as far without as much leverage. So if you're talking about buying something in the $500,000 to $600,000 range in Sacramento, that's a tough range. The reality is there's a decent amount of buildings between 500,000 and $1 million. Below 500,000, there's not quite as much there. One thing you can do that I think is kind of a cool opportunity is they sell like office or warehouse condos where you buy like a 2,000 square foot office or warehouse condo, and you can get those for $300,000, $400,000, something like that. And it basically allows you to buy a little piece of a building, and you can lease that out to somebody. And it's sort of a good first step into commercial real estate investing. For example, I have an office condo on the market in Orangevale, and we're asking $265,000 for it, which is, I mean, obviously half of what you can even buy a house for in Sacramento or really anywhere. But
okay,
yeah,
I might
so
be
to
calling
answer
you
your
tomorrow
question,
about that.
Go ahead.
I might be calling you tomorrow about that one. That's a smoking deal. Okay, so We got Dennis here. Yes, I'm loving West Sac and Natomas. Invest in 3 rental houses there already. Great area. What commercial real estate options are there, guys?
I'm sorry, I missed the first half of that.
Oh, no worries. Dennis said he's loving West Sacramento and Natomas. He invested in 3 rental houses there already. He says it's a great area. And then he asked, what commercial real estate options are there, guys?
Yeah, so the best thing for us to do would probably be to jump on a call and for you to tell me a little more about specifically what you're looking for. Because I mean, I know what's for sale, in my immediate surrounding markets, and I have access to databases that will allow me to run searches and find everything. One quick plug I'll say is that some people will say, oh, I don't really need a broker because I have LoopNet, and the reality is LoopNet has all the properties that are for sale in Sacramento. Not all of them are on LoopNet. And that's because it's a little secret, but commercial real estate brokers, some of them pay to have their property on LoopNet. And if you don't, your property doesn't show up. So people that think they can look on LoopNet and see everything that's there, you're only seeing a portion of what's actually available. But to answer your question, I think off the top of my head, I can't say anything in Natomas or West Sac that is an awesome investment. But what I do is I sit down with clients and we talk through what they're looking for, and then I create a search for them. And every time a property pops up that's in that for them, I take it straight to them. Or whenever I'm looking through the market and I see something, I think, you know what, this is just like what so-and-so is looking for. So that's why you want a commercial real estate broker keeping an eye out for you.
Well, the other thing too is here's the thing that we do every single Monday without fail. We have a list of maybe 120 realtors from different brokerages throughout Sacramento, right? So what we normally do every Monday is send out an email to all our buddies and say, hey guys, do you guys have anything coming to the market? Do you guys have anything that's going to be awesome? Do you guys have anything that's going to be great? Literally, no one does this stuff in Sacramento, but I've heard in other cities it works. And that's kind of how we get our stuff going. Do you know what I mean? The market is low in inventory. And if you wait for stuff to pop on, just like the MLS or, all that stuff, it's everyone else is going to see that stuff. So the score is when you're working with people that can actually find you stuff that's not there just yet. It's close to being there, but it's just not there yet. And that's where the score is in this real estate market. And it's for all these people who are frustrated in the market. And I get it. I'm not saying that it's always going to work, but at least you have that in as far as things that are coming to the market. That's the score in this market. That is what can kind of help you a little bit in the battle of finding a home. I'll tell you something, for me, at least, I've got at least 5 houses that we'll be putting on the market between today and maybe the next 4 months. And every realtor that I know that is trading and doing good business in Sacramento, they have their little list of how many houses they have coming in. Oh yeah, this and that. And that's how you help combat a low inventory market, whether it's commercial, whether it's real residential, whatever. That's how you combat it as much as you can. All right. So we got another one from Christian. West Sacramento's in a flood zone. We moved our warehouse out of the area. Okay, you're totally right. It isn't. It is, but it isn't. It kind of is. But FEMA just did a big what's called a it's not called a reinspection, but it's called something, analysis of it. And I think we might be seeing flood insurance pop up in West Sacramento. But the reason why I like West Sacramento is because of the 3 keys in any real estate purchase: location, location, and location. If you're running a commercial spot or just a warehouse that you just need to store stuff at, that's fantastic. But the idea is also for myself, if I ever had a video studio or whatnot, I'd want to be close to the people that I serviced, right? Downtown people. Also being near the causeway and getting out of Sacramento is another big plus for me. So for me, it's, I know it's in a flood zone, but as far as I'm concerned, the location of West Sacramento, you just can't beat it. I mean, honestly, you cannot beat it. And if you've gone out to Southport and stuff and those areas, it's developing like crazy. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, man, when it's 110 degrees in Sacramento, West Sacramento with those Delta breezes, it's a little bit cooler. And that little bit of cooler means a whole lot to this guy. All right. McClellan is out of the flood zone. Also, is commercial real estate hands off compared to renting out a house or an apartment?
I'm assuming when you say hands off as far as management goes, in commercial real estate, there's sort of a spectrum. There's on the office side, it's what we call full service leases, And that means that pretty much everything is included in your base rent, and as a result, they tend to be a little bit higher maintenance. On the other end of the spectrum, you have industrial warehouse space, which tend to be more triple net leases, which and a lot of times those leases have a lot of repairs within the space, fall on the tenant. So from a management perspective, usually industrial space is lower maintenance and a little bit less management versus office, which is on the other side where you've got a bunch of employees in there every single day. If that HVAC goes out, you're going to hear about it immediately. Whereas on a warehouse, if the HVAC comes out, they might just fix it. So it's two. Those are kind of the extremes. But I would say, as far as like ease of leasing, I think the residential lease is much, much faster. I mean, everybody knows about the housing shortage in Sacramento. So I think with commercial properties, it's good to have expectations set up front before you buy something of how long it's going to take to get a tenant. And spoiler alert, it's going to take a little longer than you expect, with a few exceptions.
Very, very cool. All right. So we got for Christian, do most buyers use 1031 exchanges?
I mean, 1031 exchanges is a great tool, and there is a decent amount of buyers that are doing that. I don't know. I'm not sure if the question is, are most people using 1031 exchanges after they sell? And the answer to that would be, it depends on the situation. We have one client that is a little younger in their career, and they're selling a building at a really nice gain. And so they don't want to pay the capital gains taxes on it right now. So they're doing a 1031 and basically rolling that into the next property. Some people are in a place in their lives where they're like, you know what, I've already done a 1031 exchange and I want the cash for this building and I don't mind paying the taxes on it. And so they just do it that way. One thing that's great about 1031 exchanges when you're selling is that you can set them up before the close of escrow, and then you can still decide to pay taxes. So on some level, setting up a 1031 exchange keeps your options open. Obviously, not a CPA, not to get too deep into that. But yeah, so to answer your question, there's a decent amount of 1031 exchange buyers out there, and a lot of people are doing them when they sell. There's talk as to the 1031 eventually going away. Nobody knows for sure.
Yeah, in residential, you're not seeing as much anymore, but it's interesting. All right, we got Ryan Moyers in the house. Mark's consistent, coming on fire every day, every single week, and always bringing in great guests. I know Ryan was on the show too. Ryan is a top producing realtor with Realty One. He's an awesome guy. We were talking actually YouTube today, and he's going to be pumping out some content next year. He's going to be dropping out a couple channels. And just bringing it, and for me, like I was talking to you, Dave, about that too earlier. It's like, it's good when you have good people delivering good, authentic content. And Ryan's going to be bringing in some heat when he comes in with his YouTube channel. And when he does, and as launches the channel, we'll bring him on live here too. And whenever Ryan's got an open invite, always on the show. But when he brings his channel out, we'll bring it on and showcase it a little bit. I always find that like the more people that do content, especially good people, legit, just authentic, down to earth, really like just good people who take care of their clients, who care and are like that, not about like the YouTube dollar. You know what I mean? Like people who it's good to see those people like do stuff and throw out content, because I do believe that if we can create a good stream of content and with a bunch of people delivering some good stuff, we could really blow up Sacramento in a good, positive way. I think in the past that's been lacking in Sacramento. And I think because of that, Sacramento might have, maybe 4 years ago was suffering some hate. But I do think that Sacramento is pretty awesome. I do think that when I bring people into Sacramento, they don't know what to expect. And by the time they're leaving, they're already talking to me about selling their house in the Bay Area. And they're making the move because they realize that this area is pretty amazing. You can get a great bang for your buck. And I would love to have people like Ryan, like you, Dave, and everyone showcase a little bit about Sacramento so that people will be like, wow, okay, didn't see that coming, but oh my, I got to go check this city out, this area out. Like I said, you got people like Dave who living in Folsom, done the Folsom thing. Now he's headed to Orangevale, and it's great. And he's killing in the commercial industry. And like now he's throwing a YouTube channel. I mean, it's great stuff, man. I mean, I think Sacramento, especially during, for 2021, really came into its own. with all like a lot of the new home building, a lot of the companies coming in. I mean, we got Oracle, we got Intel, we got Amazon, we got Apple, and we got such a huge, a nice, solid job market. We got Kaisers almost on every corner. It's crazy, but we really, really do. It's just nuts. You got Sutter Health, you got UC Davis Medical Center. You got great, like, the Elk Grove Unified School District, which provides so many job star areas as well. So I'm super grateful to be living in this amazing part of California. And for all the people moving out of California, I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But I'll be honest with you straight up. I've moved people out of California and then I moved them right back in. So, just saying. So what do you think? What are your thoughts, Dave? Okay, outside of Folsom, what do you think of Sacramento's general development? I mean, because it's a different city than it was like, what, 5-10 years ago? I mean, completely different metro area.
Yeah, after college, I lived in San Francisco for a little while, which was, a great time and it was a great place to be. But when I was in East Sacramento a couple of houses ago and going out in Midtown and, going to Golden One, it's just not a lot in San Francisco that you couldn't do in Midtown and downtown Sacramento. I mean, there's just, awesome bars, great things to do. I left Folsom when I was 18 to go to college. And at that point, I knew Folsom. That was about it. I didn't know Sacramento, but people that have been, around longer and have been going downtown, for 15 plus years, they're like, you would not believe how much nicer it is and what stuff's going on there now. So, I think most people would agree it's absolutely amazing. And I think it's only going to get better as more and more people move here from the Bay Area. I think it's just going to be great.
Oh my God. I mean, seriously, moving in so many people from different areas into Sacramento is such a nice infusion of just different people. Everyone's smile on their face. I mean, who wouldn't smile moving from like a 1,300 square foot house in the Bay Area to like a 3,500 square foot house with a pool, backyard area, great schools, you can park, a smile from year to year. Funny story, actually, I had this one client who actually moved into this area in Roseville, really beautiful area. His house is amazing. Pool, cabana, the whole 9 yards. And he moved in this really like this HOA kind of area. And it was hilarious because, they had a Facebook group and the Facebook group was all about this is not going good. And this is not, it's because here in Sacramento, we're so used to having these type of houses, right? We're used to having these like nice pieces of land and all this kind of stuff. And so like the thing that was so funny is like, he goes, hey, can we keep this forum about like, good places to do, good restaurants, good places. Oh my God, he got buried alive. But I do think in Sacramento, we should be pretty grateful that we can actually get these nice large houses, swimming pools, backyard areas. A lot of people can't, and like we should be pretty grateful that even though prices have skyrocketed on houses, it's still like we can still provide a nice house for our family to grow up in, like in nice areas, family friendly. I mean, like a lot of the United States, a lot of, California in general, you can't really do that. And I'm super grateful for it. All right. We got a question from Ryan. Question for you. What are your favorite areas in the Tri-County area?
I lived in East Sacramento for a while. Absolutely loved that. Now that I'm in Orangeville, I think that's the best part about moving to a new area is you get to try all the new food spots and find all sorts of amazing things. I have to give a shout out to Orangeville because, everyone has just been so friendly. Everyone is just awesome here. And then also like I have neighbors that have horses and goats and like, it's so cool to have that sort of like rural vibe. Everyone has chickens, but then I'm also like on, just off Greenback and Hazel and, I'm not far from the highway. So it's such a cool mix of like a little bit of a rural vibe, but also being, really close to everything else. So, I mean, I'm a huge Kings fan, Lord help me. So I go downtown to go to Kings games a lot. I love going to concerts, downtown, midtown. I've been to all the breweries out in West Sacramento. That's a great time. Of course, there's a huge brewery scene in Rancho Cordova that's super awesome. There's never a weekend where I'm like, man, I've been everywhere and I'm jaded. It's like, if anything, it's just like, of the 3 or 4 places I'd like to check out, which one do I get to go to?
Yeah. For me, Ryan, my thing is like, it's funny because you'll know this being a realtor and everything too. It's like, for me, it's like, I like to be central. right? So I don't have to drive so far. I mean, like, I get the call where someone's like, hey, I'm looking in Elk Grove, and I'm like, okay, go. You know what I mean? Or like this. So I like central locations. Like I live in Gold River right now, but I think as far as like the areas that I need to hop in my car and go, like for example, today I was like showing houses. Man, I started in Roseville, then went to Natomas, and went to Elk Grove, and it was like boom, boom, boom. And for me, it was just central as far as I go. Like in a dream state, if I was someone from like the Bay Area where I worked at home or all that stuff, I'd probably look at somewhere like 12 Bridges in Lincoln. I think that area is ripe for like a big, nice house. I still think comparatively to like a Rockland, which is super close by, or like a Folsom in Lincoln, you can still get a big bang for your buck out there. And I think Lincoln's having a new high school out there. I think Lincoln's nice. I think Lincoln's a nice area. I would say for me also, I like West Sac. The Delta Breezes are really, really nice out there. It's just, for me, it's kind of different vibes. I like Elk Grove, Laguna by those, like, that Bartholomew Park that has a soccer field right in the middle of it. I mean, there's so many areas of Sacramento. Then, I mean, like East Sac Land Park, like, it just has this kind of fun vibe where you feel like you can ride bicycles, even though I don't. But if I had a bicycle, that's where I'd ride it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. But I don't know. And I think that's one of the things that I always tell people when they are looking to move into Sacramento. I'm like, what do you like? Because we have so much different things. Like whatever you like, I'm sure I can find it here. Like you like golf carts, you like, the golf course living, you like views, let's go to El Dorado. You want to go mountain biking, let's go to Folsom. You want some great food? Well, everywhere's got that. You know what I mean? Like there's so many areas, like, like Fair Oaks with the trees. You got like Orangevale, which is like a great bang. Like the idea that you moved from Fair Oaks, from Folsom to Orangevale, for me, I'm thinking about Orangevale. For me, I always call it Little Folsom, right? The idea to invest in Orangevale where it's going to grow. I'm sure you're smiling right now because you made some cash during the pandemic as well, because that's just kind of what it's all about. So I don't know, like Sacramento's got some really amazing areas, some like rock star communities that people haven't even heard about. And so that's one of the things for me that I have smile ear to ear. We haven't even talked about the Pocket Greenhaven or anything like that either. So it's like, I don't know, man. What do you got? You like the salmon fish? Let's bring you to the Pocket. You like Gunther's ice cream. You like really good ice cream. Let's go to Curtis Park. Man, it's just crazy. So for me, I get enthusiastic about this kind of stuff because I do think that if you're someone who says, I want to move to the Sacramento area, I'm just not sure it's for me, call me. Because I will show you a couple days you will never forget. And by the time you end up leaving to go back home or to your head will be spinning. And honestly, I have client upon client who's like that. And so, yeah, for me, I don't know. Sacramento's crazy. It's a fun area to live in. And also here's another thing. What do you think about this, Dave? Sacramento is one of those cities that you're kind of on the ground floor of stuff that's just like exploding. What do you think of that? What do you think of Sacramento's kind of like, we've come so far, but still we got like so far to go, and it looks like we're going in that direction. Full steam ahead, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I think if you're coming here from other cities, because we're a little bit of a smaller city, I think you have a chance to have kind of an outsized impact. If you've got some sort of business or restaurant or bar in another city, you move here. I think there's just a lot more opportunity because there's still so many things that are growing. I mean, everything that's going to be happening in the rail yards, all the Folsom south of 50. I just think that unlike, San Francisco, that's, 7x7 peninsula, there's just not really anywhere to go. I mean, we have places to go, and there's even infill spots like the rail yards and McClellan that are going to, are just going to be all kinds of opportunities for people. So I love it. I mean, one thing I was curious for you, Mark, is what objections do you get from people to moving out to Sacramento, and how do you debunk them?
To be totally honest, I mean, normally people watch the videos, watch the channel, and they're kind of, I think, what I've noticed is that people are kind of between a few different places, like maybe like a Sacramento, maybe like going to Portland, maybe going to Austin, maybe going to Vegas and everything too. And they start seeing the videos that I throw up about the various areas in Sacramento, and they're kind of like, well, okay, let me check out Sacramento. And then, like we get on a Zoom call, and, I literally have about 2 or 3 Zoom calls every day. And I'm talking to people and I'm like, so like, what do and I keep it off the house because I think the house, Sacramento for the most part is track, right? So you're going to find kind of a track home in Sacramento. And it sounds a little worse than it is because some of these track homes are amazing track homes and it just is what it is. But I'm like, what's your lifestyle? What do you like? What do you like to do? What is your typical, like, do you like to mountain bike? Do you like to golf? Are you a person like me who loves staying inside, Netflix? That's where you go. Like, what is your style? Like, what are you looking for? And I got to be honest, I haven't been able to, I mean, everyone who's come in, I've been able to pretty much give them options where their heads are spinning. There's no real objections. Honestly, I mean, if you look in California in general and you look at somewhere like Sacramento, we're centrally located to like an hour and a half to Tahoe, to Napa. We've got fledgling wines, Whitney Amador, Elk Grove. You can ski. You got like like Stinson Beach, which is like an hour and 30 minutes away in Marin County, which is a nice beach as well. I mean, you got everything at your fingertips. You can go to the Bay Area, anywhere in the Bay Area in about 2 hours. And honestly, for like under $1 million, you can get yourself one of those houses that you've seen in MTV Cribs. I mean, okay, sign me up. I'm good with that. You can have that house that like, that you say to yourself in the Bay Area, I'm never going to be able to afford that. And if I am, why would I pay that amount for that? I mean, that's just crazy. That mortgage payment is nuts. Here in Sacramento, you can get that for like under $1 million. You can get yourself like a 3,000 square foot house, 3,500 probably, something like that. Pool, cabana, nice area, and we're in a really strong appreciating market. So for me, I don't know. I mean, there's not too many objections especially once they step off the plane. And actually, funny as it is, like I've gotten people flying actually in here to look at houses. And so, like I had one really nice doctor. He's going to be working at the new medical school in Natomas. And he's just scouting around the areas. And we're checking out penthouses downtown, which was really, really fun. And he was looking at buying like the penthouse at the Kimpton, which was really, really nice. And then, I got other people who are looking for Auburn, looking for this flying in. So I don't know. I mean, there's not too many. It's not hard, and I think that's one of the things I love about like people like Ryan, people like you, people like Matt, people like New Way Mortgage, all these people dropping content. I always tell people, I'm like, try to keep it niche because truthfully, it's like, it's showing your point of view on our Sacramento market. It's giving like Sam Galovi, my buddy also, Sam's doing some awesome niche content for this area as well. And I think that like when people get a little sneak peek as to what Sacramento is really about, not what like you hear or, all that like stuff that's going out there, you see what it's all about. I think, at least for me, I think you'll have a lot of people thinking about moving in here, and they do. They come in here and they see some awesome houses. And if you want a new home, I don't know, it's crazy. So what do you think about this new home thing going on now, Dave? I mean, there's a lot of new home builders, huh?
I think it's awesome. My first or my second home I grew up in was a new track home, and I'll tell you what, it's really, really nice not having things break, have everything brand new. Something really, really nice about that. And I think the ones that I'm seeing are just absolutely beautiful. I mean, you can't even call them track homes. I mean, they're just very, very nice. And there's something great about a brand new, newly constructed house. My house here is very, very old, and some of the doors don't quite close. And there's things that come with that character. But having a new house would be great. So I'm excited about all the growth. I know some people are a little bit, they're a little worried that it'll change things too much, but I think if you love where you're at, you should be happy for people to come there.
Yeah. I mean, man, we got like, I know of at least 25 new communities in Sacramento right now, currently in the Sacramento metro area. I know at least another 10 to 15 that are doing more new community building in 2022. The crazy part is, now check this out. This is kind of interesting. This is something that I didn't really realize, because right now in Sacramento's market, if you go new or if you go pre-owned, they're pretty competitive with each other, right? Like they're competitive. Boom, boom. I was talking to my buddy, Brian, a couple weeks ago on the show, and he was telling me that in Vegas, There's a 30% difference between new homes and pre-owned homes. New homes are 30%. He's like around 30% more to buy a new home in Vegas than to get a pre-owned home. So I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize we had it so good here if you're thinking about buying a new home. I mean, like, you know how it is, because in my opinion, you got your pre-owned homes and you got your new homes, and there's big differences in my opinion. Like the new homes, I love them because they got solar, and they're new, right? The older homes, you got probably a little bit more of a backyard, a little bit more spacing. You got more of an established community. You know what your community is going to look like, right? You know what your neighbors are going to look like. You don't have to deal with the settling and stuff. So there's pros and cons. But one of the things about our market that I really love is the fact that someone can go to a pre-owned and can go to a new, and they're pretty much, about the same price. So that's not too, that's pretty crazy. Our market's got that as well. So I'm kind of grateful for that as well. More choices, especially in this market of low inventory.
Yeah, I mean, thank heaven that we have the new homes coming in. Otherwise, can you imagine what the inventory would be?
Oh yeah. Hey, let me ask you something, Dave. Okay, so as far as your content on your channel, let's flip it back to your content. For anyone who's looking for commercial, also commercial broker, Dave's a man. So I would encourage you to reach out to him. And like I said, I'll include all his contact information in this video. He's awesome. He's local. He's someone that you can just reach out to talk to. Anyone that I bring on this channel, I pretty much stand behind because we talk, we've had many conversations, and, they're just we're all kind of like, as you notice on this channel, everyone's a little bit low sell. If you talk to us, hey, if you work with us, great. If not, at least we can give you a little bit of nugget of information to help you on your way. And that's kind of what it's all about. So for you, Dave, what kind of videos are you going to be dropping on your channel in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so I've pre-recorded some, but really what my channel is focusing on is helping business owners specifically understand commercial real estate. We're going to have videos that help just straight investors too. But as we've kind of alluded to, one of my personal passions is helping business owners buy their own buildings. I have a video series that's going to kind of go through the entire process of buying a commercial property. We have videos on just kind of like quick tips of, even just like what is an LOI, what is a PSA, what are the difference. I'm trying to do just kind of a lot of different things, but I'm sticking specifically to commercial real estate, and I'm even focusing heavily on what we call owner-user buyers. It's not all that I do, but that is something that we're really specializing in. And once again, Mark, thank you again for having me, on here. I'm learning a ton from you on this video series. So appreciate all your advice. And when he says, soft sell as well, like I think that's really, really important to have people you can just call and talk to and not feel like they're going to sell you on something, feel like they're going to give you genuinely good advice and not care whether they actually make money off it. Obviously, Mark is in that category, and that's rare.
I have not had anyone block my number yet. So honestly, truthfully, I'm okay. All right. So, okay. For me, I'm going to be going on live with Aaron, my buddies at New Way. By the way, New Way Mortgage is right now on doing their live on their channel. So if you type in New Way Mortgage, boom, you're going to go right there, and you've got Jen and Aaron. They'll be talking a little, mortgage rates, all that kind of fun stuff. Now on Monday, Aaron and I are going to talk about, here's the thing, all these YouTubers are freaking out about next year, this and that. You're hearing a lot of mixed things, but at the end of the day, it's everyone's just opinion of what the market and where the market is going to go. So what we're going to talk about is 5 indicators that you can gauge on how the real estate market is doing yourself. So that way you don't have to go to these YouTube channels that are freaking you out and all that stuff. You're going to see 5 indicators that we're going to run through on Monday at 5:30 that'll give you a little bit of an insight on how the real estate market is doing. Now, the 6th indicator that we aren't going to go over is you guys tuning in on Monday and on Wednesday at 5:30 to Sacramento Real Estate and the real estate news that we do on Monday, because we got the latest and the greatest. All right. Any parting words, Dave?
No, thank you so much for having me on. If anyone has questions about commercial real estate, happy to help. And, just like Mark, I'm really happy to talk to anybody, give a little advice. And if it helps, then that's all that matters.
All right, guys. And one more time, smash that like button. Smash it. Smash it. Do what Hulk does. Smash. Until next time, guys, I'm out of here. Guess what, guys? The video just ended. But don't worry, we have more videos just like that one right over there. And if you missed that red subscribe button during the course of the video, we got you covered right there. Hit that subscribe button. We promise to bring you some amazing content. We won't let you down. Now, if you're looking for a team in the Sacramento metro area to work with, we'd love to talk to you one-on-one. We always include a Zoom link down below, so book a time where we can talk to you a little one-on-one, find out